All right, guys, we are back with another OP07 deck list. We're here with RageBrower1, a Twitch streamer. He's played this One Piece game since OP06. He's come from the Magic scene. Love to hear more about him. RageBro, welcome. Tell me more. What got you into One Piece, and what are your thoughts?
Hi. So yeah, I got into One Piece just basically last set, or I guess a set and a half ago. But yeah, I came from Magic because I really like card games, playing them since I was like 10, I want to say. I've been playing Magic for so long. But I wanted to play a 1v1 format that was a bit more competitive than like Commander and whatnot. So I picked up One Piece because it was a lot cheaper than making a standard deck. So coming into One Piece, I wasn't too interested at first. Like I had heard about the game quite a bit, but I had never really watched the show or anything like that. I never really read the manga either. But I got a new job, and then my coworkers, when OP06 dropped, they were getting me into it. They're like, "Hey, come on, open some packs, like just don't open Magic. It's like more expensive, whatever, right?" So I started opening some One Piece, pulled some fun cards. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna brew some weird decks, right?" Because I pulled a bunch of Rebecca's and like I was like, "I'm gonna build a zero power deck, like all this stuff, right?" So that's when I got into it.
I played you in the sim, and I was really impressed that you had such a strong Ace deck that, I love to, learn more about it. First of all, let's build it. Could you talk us through what you have in your deck and how you normally would build it out?
Of course, yeah. Obviously, the leader. I got that bad boy blinged up. Got the black and white Panda Ace. Starting off, obviously, I got my searchers. I got three of the one drop Garp searchers. The yellow one from the starter deck.
Yeah, let's see, where is he? Oh, there.
The reason I'm running three is just so I can fit in a couple other cards that I feel really help round out the deck. Obviously, I got the Garps. The reason that I'm running Garp is purely to find the little kids, the little brothers. I run four little Monkey D. Luffy's and four little Portgas D. Ace. I think I don't run any Sabo in this deck. I think splitting to three of the brothers hurts consistency and is why Gecko Moria is the most important part in Black and Yellow Luffy,
Hmm.
because generally it runs three of the different brothers, and consistency hurts if you need to rely on that many different pieces for a combo. So with Blue Yellow Ace, you have a search on your leader. So every turn you're allowed to search your deck. So you should almost pretend, at least in this list, that Ace says, "Okay, look at your deck for a 5-drop Luffy or a 5-drop Ace." And if you don't, hopefully you could find a Satori or something. Because I have the four Rocket Luffy's from OP07, and I've got four of the starter deck 5-drop Luffy's as well. With for the Ace, I have five of the blocker Ace, which is genuinely one of the best cards in OP07 in my opinion. One of course, because there are a lot of good cards in that set. And of course, if I'm running Ace, I gotta run the 5-drum Bush Ace, right?
Do you run four of them?
I run four of those ones,
Hmm.
yes. I like running four of them, even though they're a brick, because there are moments with, for example, the blue ace, I can stack my deck, fixing my hand, stuff like that, to kind of help me make sure that I'm not too bricked, essentially.
Mm.
So that's basically the core of the deck. You got your searchers, which is your leader in Garp. You have you're trying to find the little brothers. You want to try to start with at least one little brother, so then you know you're not going in blind. And if you don't have any, you need to have a search for them, right? The deck does draw a decent amount of cards, which is really nice, but not all the time are you able to find necessarily the little brother for if you're putting a 5-drop on top. Because there's only four of each, right? You could have used them already. It could just be bad luck, bottom decked kind of thing. So you need something to fix that. Because if you look at the leader, he's really good. It says 2, activate main, once per turn, you get to search 5 cards and put a 5 cost to life, face up. But the downside to this leader is that at the end of the turn, you have to put all of your face up life cards into the trash. Whether you put them there or an 8-drop Katakuri, put them there. They all have to go to the bin. So we need to make sure that if we can't find the little brothers, we need a way not to just accidentally be trashing cards and wasting our leader. So while these first few cards are the core, I would say the essential parts are the ways to fix your life after. Those would be my favorite one of the deck, of course, is Viola. It's a 2-drop blocker that when on play, you get to look either at all of your opponent's life and return them in any order, which, let's say you have the kids, you're able to cheat out and fix your life and all that stuff. You're able to play up against a Nanel, make sure they don't have you're the one who should disappear. You can play against a Nami, know when they're hitting their draw triggers, all of these different things just on the first part of this ability. And in Ace, that's not even the best part of her. The second part of the on play, the other option is turn all of your life cards face down. So any 5-drop Ace we put up there, or any Luffy, anything, any 5-cost any card we put up there, Viola is going to be able to make sure that we turn it face down. So let's say we're stacking the Rocket Luffy up top because they have, maybe we're running up against Doflamingo, 7 Warlords. There's so many 4-drops. So many 4-drops running right now. If I'm able to put Luffy up top, knowing that they're going to have a lot of attacks because they can cheat out so many people, then I put out the Viola, turn them face down, and essentially it's 2 blocks is how I look at it. Because for 2 Dawn, sorry, that's the magic, I'm getting a blocker, and I'm essentially getting removal that is working as a blocker. Because let's say I'm at 3 life, I use my leader ability for 2 Dawn, put Luffy to the top, play the Viola, and flip him down. Now, even if I get hit, I block once and I get hit once for life, at the end of that turn, I'm still at 3 life. I only committed 4 Dawn to that. That's 2 attacks that I've taken care of, and hopefully a third if I can hit a new target with Rocket Luffy's trigger. So the versatility that Viola lets you have is crazy, with helping you delay your match or going aggro with setting up your... You could go a 9k leader in this deck, just like Black and Yellow Luffy, because if you know that you're able to counter out of attacks, or it's early enough where you're not, you're going to be able to just make sure they don't hit your life this early on, you put up a 5-drop, use Viola, flip it down. The next turn you put up another 5-drop, and if you have both of those little brothers in hand, you can cycle them both that turn. And you're just like that. You're a 9k leader, just like Luffy. And that can catch a lot of people off guard, because most of the time people are just putting Ace to 7, which is what you want to do for consistency, since we're not playing out of the bin like we would in Black and Yellow Luffy. But it is a good way to catch some people off guard, which is one of my favorite parts of the deck, is how many different ways you can play it to solve different issues. Now, speaking of solving issues, Viola was a way to make sure that we don't waste our cards, right? And we need more than just 3 copies of Viola. I run 3 copies of Charlotte Flampe, which is a 1-drop Big Mom Pirates card from EVO1. This card, on play, you get to add 1 card from the top or bottom of your life cards to your hand, and then you get to draw a card. And it's a 2k counter, which is super reliable. If you aren't able to use a little brother, you're not able to get the Viola to flip it down. Essentially, for 1 Dawn with Flampe, on play, you're going to draw that card you put up there with your leader, and then you're going to draw a second card. So for 1 Dawn, you're drawing 2 cards, essentially. And basically, you're making sure that the face-up life card can't go to the bin. With it being a 2k, I'm going to speak about another card that is a 2k that also happens to fix our life really well, and that is Hiyori. I run 4 Hiyoris because it is one of the best 2ks in the game, in my opinion. It's a 2-drop. On play, you may put the top or bottom of your life into your hand, and then you get to put 1 card from your hand onto the top of your life. Now, with the Big Brother deck, and you basically are relying on either your top life card luckily being the one you need, or you've already put it there. Hiyori for 2 Dawn lets you make sure that it is, right? And it also kind of lets you, if you already know what's there, if you've been using Viola and putting cards face down, you could pull from the bottom, see what it is, if it's a brother, if it's a card that you need in the life still, or if maybe you're pulling a Flampe out from the bottom card and it's going to help you later on, right? So what you can do then is you can put one of the big brothers back on top of the life, but it goes face down, which is the key here, because it doesn't specify that it needs to return in the same condition that you pulled it from. So when you're adding a card, generally, the game tells you to put it face down. So the interaction with Hiyori is really helpful in this deck for 2 Dawn, especially with it being a reliable 2K counter on the backup. So those are some of the 2K counters that we've got so far. The last 2K counters that we have are going to be a 5-drop, so they're a searchable target for our leader. It's going to be Satori. The reason that I chose Satori, like I said, is it's a 5-drop, so it helps make our deck a little bit more consistent. If for some reason we aren't able to get the top deck stack with the blocker ace, or we're just not able to draw into one of our 5-drop targets, then hopefully the 3 extra Satori 2Ks are going to be able to make sure you're not wasting those 2 Dawn, essentially. Not only that, he does have a trigger, so you can turn him face down with Viola. You can bring him to your hand with Flampe, because it's a 2K. If he is in your life and he gets triggered, I generally, unless I'm in a spot where I can't really play my main core of the deck, you don't really want to trigger Satori, because the other cards in this deck are so important to make sure that the deck stays consistent. You don't generally want to be trashing most of these cards. Let's say you have a Satori in hand and you trigger a Satori out of life. Why not? But yeah, so that's pretty much the main part of the deck. It's got the core, the little brothers, big brothers, searchers, and ways to make sure that we're not screwing our leader ability by accidentally trashing a card that we don't need to be trashed. Now with that, that's all fine and dandy, but that's just every blue and yellow ace deck, right? Now, what kind of helps make sure that you can get into the cards in the proper timing is a bit more of control. Now, we're in blue, so we have really, really good control pieces. And one of the best ones in the game is a 4-drop character, and it has a 1K counter. It's Charlotte Pudding. This card, I honestly, if you're running a blue deck and you don't have Pudding other than Nami, you need to maybe look at the list and see if you could slide a couple in. Because what this does, for 4 Dawn on play, doesn't matter how many cards your opponent has, they all go back into their deck from their hand, and then they draw 5 cards. Now, yes, you could be drawing their perfect 5 cards to see what they need, but the likelihood of that is very, very low. And also the likelihood of this being dropped mid to late game and it resetting the hand that your opponent has curated is enormous. Right now in the meta, there's a lot of green, there's a lot of yellow, and there's a lot of blue. Those colors have a lot of cards in hand, generally. And when in a deck with like this, with blue, yellow, ace, you're going to 7K more often than not, because for consistency reasons, you're trying to trigger one of the brothers since we can't recur them. So since we're a little bit lower powered than the black, yellow Luffy, Pudding resets our opponent's hand and gets rid of any counters that they may have been holding on to, any 0-cost events that they could have been trying to keep to slide a slick one past us. All of these different reasons to help get a couple of hits through, especially in a last end game turn as a last push. Dropping a Pudding right before you go for game with a board full of characters is almost sealing the victory, because 5 cards is really hard to counter out of a 7K leader. And if we look at all of our brothers, their base power is really high. So each of the brothers is minimum a 6K. That Luffy can go up to an 8K. And the ace that has rush is a 7K. So if I'm putting my opponent down to 5 cards in hand and I'm swinging with a board of a leader you need to give 3K for, chances are you're not going to have the counters. Moving on from Pudding, a little bit more control, bit more aggressive of a character. It's a 6-drop, 8K Boa Hancock from OP07.
How many of them?
I have 3 of these guys, and then we'll go after. I'll tell you afterwards how many of each I got, just to make sure. I got 2 more cards after this one here. But yeah, so the Boa Hancock is one of the best control pieces in this deck, because not only with the current meta, like for example, in my locals at the very least, I'm seeing so many green decks about, like Bonnie, Corona, stuff like that. So all of these searchers that are coming out, getting rested and are reusable in searching, they're so much value for your opponent. And if you see a lot of Nami, like my locals have as well, one of the best cards for Nami is Kaya, because for 1 drop, it's taking 2 cards out of their deck, which is getting them positive on cards. Where Boa on play not only gets to slow down your opponent's threats, it gets to kind of put those value pieces away, so your opponent can't keep using them as well. So you're not necessarily needing to waste one of your attacks on one of those, as long as you know that you're going to see the Boa. The reason that I like the 5-drop ace, the blue one, the blocker ace, is because his on play is being able to set up the next 2 turns, or the next turn, sorry, the next 2 cards that you're going to see with your leader ability, to make sure that you're not, for example, bottom decking your pudding. Hopefully, you're not bottom decking your Boa, so that when you play out your Boa, you can slow down your opponent's big target and then get rid of some of their value pieces. Now, that doesn't mean only play Boa if you can hit both targets, because for 6 Dawn, being able to make sure that a character other than a Monkey D. Luffy can't attack you until your opponent's next turn is super strong in a deck that likes making sure you have all of its pieces. A little bit stronger than Boa, and helping you make sure that you have all of your pieces, would be the top end, the strongest card in the deck, let's say, would be the 10-drop Kaido. It's the draw 4 cards if your opponent has 3 or less life on play. Now, generally, you want to run 2 of these cards, because it is really expensive and it's a lot of commitment in a deck where you're relying on increasing your leader's cost with at least 4 Dawn. Or sorry, not cost, your power. So you need to be able to play Kaido in a spot where drawing the cards is going to do the same thing. Those cards will counter out or set up your next turn the same way that Boa Hancock will, because it's going to slow down your opponent's turn to help you set up for your next turn. So when you play this Kaido, it's going to help you draw into these other pieces, like the pudding you can't search for, like the Boa you can't search for, all of these different things that are so reliable and help you make sure that this deck stays solid. And honestly, it's really hard to remove the Kaido at a base 12k power. It's a huge threat if you're able to get your opponent down with your, you play a Kaido down, the next turn maybe you drop 2 rush aces. That is a lot of counter that your opponent. So with 2 of the Kaidos, that'll be the end of all of our characters in the deck. That's the top end, and I think in certain matchups is one of the best cards you could pull to make sure that your hand stays really high, because dropping the kids, dropping the big brothers, all of these things in this deck, you tend to kind of go down in your hand size a little fast. The last 2 cards I have in the deck, though, are Gum Gum Red Rock. I have 2 copies of them because 9 cost Zoro, stuff like that, really hurts being able to swing out so much, trying to remove your characters, stuff like this. I have 2 copies of that card, and I prefer it over Gravity Blade only because it's 6 cost. If it were any more, it wouldn't be as good in my opinion in this deck specifically. Red Rock being 6 cost still lets you use your leader ability for 2 Dawn, hopefully putting a big brother to top, and then still playing out a little brother or Viola or Hiyori or Flampe to make sure that that card wasn't a waste.
So it looks like I'm at 51. Which of these cards did I
Yes.
put too many at?
So I have 3 pudding and then 3 garps.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Otherwise, that's perfect.
So it's interesting, and thank you again for going over that. This was just like I just learned so much about this deck. It's
Right?
interesting with the 10 drop Kaido because a lot of your characters have counter. Like you have so many counter.
Yes.
This is great. Like I think I kind of like well without the 2 of those, so it's like 39 counter almost. So let's see, 4,
Yeah,
8,
like there's 3 boa and then there's 2 red rocks and then there's 2 kaido. Everything else is a counter
and ace, but
because
yeah.
yeah, and the ace, sorry. Yeah.
11, so that's 11 non-counterbles.
Yeah. So Kaido coming in late, making sure you're able to get a lot of counters in hand to help you make sure your next turn is going to be the turn to tie out the game. Because you don't want to really be dropping a 10 cost Kaido just to draw 4. You're dropping them so that you can win the next turn, right?
Okay, so I would like to learn because I know like a lot of people haven't really played Ace, and you talked about the characters you run. I think this is amazing. Honestly when the moment I played you, I'm like, wow, this is a strong deck. But I have a question for you. In terms of mechanics, like this is not Black Yellow Luffy. You play the boas, you know, you bottom deck the characters, you play the big brother, the small brothers, you combo with the big brothers, you hide your face up, face down life. Do you find yourself being, considering that you summon so many units and you're able to gain attack, with being a 4 life leader, do you feel like you're safe? Like, do you feel like you're so aggressive that they just have to deal with your board type thing?
Genuinely, Ace doesn't even feel like a 4 life leader. There's sometimes like in certain matchups you can play this deck so different in a matchup that you know is takes a little bit to build up but hits crazy hard. I've had it where I've gotten my ace, like I've gotten my life up to 7 life with ace
Wow.
by chaining Viola, Iori, stuff like that, right? Just making sure that I get the triggers set up, being able to put Red Rock into my life with Hiyori, being able to make sure that my Rocket Luffy is going to be able to knock something out if I needed to. You can really climb in life against a slow deck. And against a fast deck, you can almost outpace it if you're seeing the right cards, which is why you need to have the proper draw in the deck. This deck genuinely is a mid to late game deck, but it can try to keep up with an aggro early deck. As long as you can see your, for example, the starter deck Luffy, the 5 cost that can go to a 6, from 6 to 8, you want to see him early as you can as your little brother for your target, because he going to 8k without any Dawn, and if you're already up against an aggro deck, it's really hard for them to counter out because they're going to be dropping so many different bodies. They're going to be losing their cards in hand. 8k base, let's say you throw 1 Dawn on them, now it's 9k. That's 5k minimum from hand for a 1 character swing, and I've only committed 1 Dawn to this. So the brothers genuinely come out at different paces, depending on what you're playing against. The starter deck Luffy we're talking about now is so much nicer to see early game than the Luffy, because the Luffy can be, or sorry, the Rocket Luffy, because it can be used later to clear blockers and stuff from life to help you get through on those final swings with your rush aces, because both rush ace and Rocket Luffy require the same amount of life in to get the effect off. The on play for ace is if you have 2 life or less, he gets rush. Rocket Luffy is if you activate the main, of course, you put him in the trash, but you might not get the effect. You need to have your life at 2 or less as well to be able to get the 4 drop out and then draw a card. So these are the timing on which brother you're playing really does depend on what deck you're playing against, in my opinion.
So talking about different decks, this is where a lot of people really love to learn, and this is my favorite segment about when I go over these deck lists. Can you talk about some of your matchups against some of the meta leaders? Like, what do you do against? And I'll go down the list, but let's start with probably the most common. Let's say a Lucci Gucci.
So I haven't actually seen too many Lucci matchups yet in my locals with when I've been bringing Ace specifically. I've just somehow been dodging them. So I've been trying to kind of target them on the sim a little bit. it's a pretty fun matchup. I can drop a lot of bodies pretty consistently that are all pretty big threats for my opponents. Whether it be the Hancock, the Pudding, because Pudding is a 4K, so I only need to put one Dawn for her to make her an actual usable attacker. The Luffy that has an activated ability on main to kill stuff, or the Luffy that has the activated ability to get bigger, they're big targets. There's a couple of blockers in the deck, right? So a lot of the time blockers are big targets. And so what's nice is I almost going up against a removal deck, you can almost use your characters as bait in this because you're able to reliably get your leader up to 7k without any Dawn committed. Putting 2 more on, go to 9. You can get a lot of cards out of a Lucci's hand and into their bin, which in turn makes it a lot harder for them to drop those cards to remove your bodies. Because of how many times I'm getting from a 2k or from a 2 cost to a 5 cost so quickly, that's a big jump in cost and requires usually at least one more card to get that removed. And then I have things like the Boa Hancock, which is a 6 cost. And then if I get there, I have the 10 cost Kaido, which comes in for these removal decks that either, hopefully, if I'm doing it right with my 7k leader, they won't have enough cards in hand to even think about removing this Kaido.
Yeah, with your character sorting,
Yeah.
Ace sorting your hand, Yori sorting your life, Viola, you searching every turn, almost every turn,
Yeah.
being able to search. I can definitely see that. Like, you're a lot more consistent than they are if they bottom
Yeah.
deck a lot of the things they need.
Exactly. And what's nice in this deck is yes, I may not be able to pull the Boa, the Pudding, or the Kaido, things like that in my searches, but if every single turn I'm hitting a 5-card search with my leader, and then on every other turn, every few turns, another 5-card search with my Garp Searcher, I'm cycling those cards back up to the top very quickly. And with experience as a Nami player as well, I know that it's kind of hard, but it's pretty manageable to keep track of where cards are in your deck in a format with 50 cards in it.
Moria, when he summons units.
Yeah, Moria can get a little out of hand, but what's really nice is I also have removal in being able to cheat out the Luffy, being able to use my red rocks for their Morias. Because if I kill a Moria, that's fine. But chances are they've played the match to try to get to the point where the Moria hitting the bin doesn't necessarily hurt what's in there. So when they hit their top end and stuff, that's where I'm using red rock, which isn't as expected because a lot of the time people are going to assume you're going to use Gravity Blade because it can hit so many targets. Now, what's nice about Red Rock, like I mentioned earlier, is you're able to bottom deck a big threat, a big blocker, something like that, and then still swing big with Ace as a 7k leader at the very minimum, hopefully. And if you're able to get your little brother into your big brother, then you're going to be swinging as a 9k leader while you've just bottom decked one of their big threats. So, same kind of game plan. I'm trying to make them hold back on dropping all their bodies because I'm such an aggressive threat and have such high powered characters that they need to hold cards in hand or they're just going to lose life so fast.
I think that makes sense, especially because you're able to not only summon characters to your life, and if you organize your life well enough to use them with your small bodies, you swing 7. Let's say, for example, they play Moria 8th on turn. You Red Rock Moria. You use Baby Brother. Use your leader ability. Get the plus 2k from the Baby Brother. Summon the Rush, and then you're like 7/7.
Exactly.
On the one turn.
Well, no, that's not even that. Putting the Rush Ace to the top life is putting 2 Dawn, right? So you're going to 9k if you get the little brother trigger.
Oh, because the 2 Dawn's already on there. Yeah.
Because
So
the 2 Dawn is already on him.
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah.
So he's 7, and then with the 2k from the little brother, you're swinging for 9, and then you have a 7. Yeah, it's very nice.
So essentially, what I'm hearing is if Moria is being targeted a lot, or black decks, and they have 0 life and 1 blocker, good luck.
Yeah. This card you need. This deck you definitely need to have a lot of cards in hand to play play against it
Mm.
because it requires a lot of counter for the different power that the characters actually bring.
And then there's pudding.
And then there's pudding,
Just
but
destroying
pudding just
dreams.
destroys dream. Yeah, it's like, oh man, pudding is the best card in this game, I think.
So good. So good.
Like,
You mentioned about the ace blocker. Not a lot of people are running this card, but with this build, I feel like it shines. Like the way you're describing it, the way it works. I think this is a great addition.
this ace blocker is one of my favorite cards. When I saw this coming out, it was one of the only cards that I knew immediately. I'm putting this in ace. I don't care. I need a playset. Help me find it. Like, because yeah, for one of not only you're going to 7k until your next turn as a leader, right? Like you're getting an extra 2k power until your next turn defensively. You now have a 6k blocker that just set up your next first draw to make sure you're not taking out a big brother, and to help make sure that, hey, maybe you had a bunch of 5 drops in hand, you're going to put them back on top your deck to make sure that you're going to draw one card. Sure, we'll take a brick out because you're attacking me. I don't want to hold on to this. We'll put that as my next draw, and then I'll put 2 Dawn on, and I know that I have a 5-drop ace right here. Okay, perfect. On top, let's play this, and here we go.
Yeah, really nice. Okay, so while we're on the topic of black decks, there's always, the third one, the one that we have to talk about, and the one that people are very probably curious about. Luffy, black yellow Luffy. Like, what would you do
This
against?
matchup is so close. It's such a hard matchup for both sides because we're running such similar kits. I'm not going really for KOs because he's only running 5 drops or more for the most part. So my Rocket Luffy targets don't really hit. Their Rocket Luffy targets don't generally hit except for Viola, which is fine because I'm playing her to fix my life in that matchup, not necessarily for the blocker, because I know exactly what pace they can take as an aggro deck, right? And I want either big bodies or cards in hand to counter out of those. So I'm relying on things like swinging into their aggro from my own aggro with the same characters essentially, or bottom decking their big things that like their Sabo blockers, stuff like that, right? Generally, black yellow Luffy hides behind a lot of Sabo blockers because they can just cycle it from the bin with Moria and their leader ability, taking it out of the trash, putting it back on top if it dies. So it is a hard matchup because of the amount of recursion 8-drop Gecko Moria gives them. If black and yellow Luffy does not see enough of their Gecko Moria in this matchup, they do not have it because they cannot bring out enough blockers for the exact same pace of aggro that they bring to the table. From what I've experienced, genuinely, the less I've had a way easier time if the opponent, even if they only see one Gecko, my deck really pushes through because of how fast Luffy burns through the resources, where Ace is kind of a little bit of a slower, more calculated deck style. You can kind of outpace the Luffy resources, especially with the pudding, as long as you make sure that they don't necessarily get that recursion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, unless you're swinging at Luffy, you just keep them 4-3 life. They can do their flampees, they can do all that, but you're just summoning so many 5 costs. Like, I'm just imagining a board where you have 5, or you have like so many 5 costs on the board because you just use leader ability, bring it to that, like you use baby kid, or just like all these little ways to find these 5 costs that by the time they're on the board, like you said, the 5 cost Luffy cannot KO your 5 costs.
Exactly.
They're gonna just
like
look
while
at them.
I may have issue removing their characters, they will have the exact same issue, except I actually have blue removal. That just not only gets around the Sabo recursion of not KOing it, it just bottom decks it. It just gets it out of there, man. I don't even need to worry about it.
I'm almost curious. Like, it feels like, I know you have 2 red rocks, but it feels like the Gravity Blade 2 might even be better for your black matchups.
I know. Genuinely, I've gone back and forth so much between Gravity Blade and Red Rock. The like I said earlier, the only reason that I end up running Red Rock is because it helps a little bit more with leader ability consistency. Because in a deck where it kind of revolves around using your leader ability, you don't want to whiff that. And if you whiff it, you're going to feel real bad because you're putting a card in life. You're not going to be able to use that card because it gets trashed. So if you don't have the Dawn available, like a Red Rock will give you 4 Dawn, that's all you need to make sure that your top life is safe.
True. 6 versus
Right?
7.
So the 7 cost Gravity Blade only lets you rely on Flampe to make sure that that top card is safe. But it's not even helping you heal, it's making sure it's going to your hand for more card advantage. So while Gravity Blade, yes, it does hit a lot of targets. It hits so many things and it's so useful. Like I want to just run 4 of, but in a deck that relies so much on consistency and doesn't have necessarily a card that just says, "Hey, drop me and I'm making you consistent," like Gecko Moria and Black and Yellow Luffy. It's you need to kind of be really specific on what your curve is each turn.
No, that makes sense. And like Moria, Lucci, I think we already talked about your win conditions against them, so it's not like a deal breaker. And with the Luffy, because you summon, yeah, it just 6 is. You're right. It's the magic number for your leader. You need the 2
Right.
Dawn. You need a summon.
And
you need a combo with these guys.
One thing a lot of people don't notice also is Viola can really screw over a Big Brother deck. A lot of the time, Luffy might leave their 2 guys up because they're already at a big number. Because so a lot of the time I see people put 2 in top life, and then the next turn they bring them both out. They go to 9. They put 2 more top life, right? And it's because they have specific sequencing they need to do to make sure that it turns out properly. If you're randomly just completely mixing it up, they now have to drop a character. Let's say they have to drop the Sabo blocker first, then they have to play their Luffy after. That Luffy doesn't get protection from the Sabo. Stuff like that. Playing with opponent's life on Viola is one of the biggest reasons that this is an underrated card, especially because for me locally it came out in a meta where pretty much the only thing you saw at a table was an L. You got to make sure that there was no "you're the one who should disappear."
I like it. Well, because we already mentioned it, and because we're on the topic, love to hear our ML matchup.
Anel is a super good matchup because I'm a deck that, okay, let's go at whatever pace you want. We're going to take it slow. Let's take it nice and slow because I can make my long-term game super, super powerful. Now, keeping in mind that Anel has things like life removal from Gidatsu, the 9-cost Yamato, it's not necessarily a matchup that I want to keep my life up in. So maybe I'm going to be playing things like Flampe early, or the 5-cost Luffy from starter deck that
13,
helps me get a card out of my life. Putting me down in life is going to help me dodge removal and activate my own removal with Rocket Luffy and my own aggro with the 5-drop Ace. Now, Anel loves a long game because it just basically the whole point of it is it just can't die, right? If it's able to cycle a 9-cost Yamato into a 10-cost Ace into a 9-cost Yamato, you're going to have a bad time. So there is a level of urgency that you need to use to play against an Anel, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to put your own characters in a position that they're vulnerable in. Anel generally is going to want to take their own life to get as many cards as they can with Flampes, Hioris. They don't have to put something back with Hiyori. You can just take a card. A lot of people don't realize that. You just take a card, and I don't think you have to put one back. And then Flampe is so much value for Anel's early on, late game, stuff like that, that generally Anel is going to go down to probably 2 life to hang around. And then suddenly you're swinging with 7K, 7K, 8K, 8K, 12K Kaido, hopefully outpacing their 1 heal, 2 heals a turn.
Getting them down to 1 life. I know like timing's always curious with this. What's the like pacing would you go? Like do you swing with leader, he takes 1, so he's at 2? Do you like swing ever with a character or just always leader? Get him down to 1?
Now, the tough part with that is you kind of only want to swing in to a yellow deck that's able to stack their life if you know that it's going to mean something when you hit 2 removal triggers. You know, like with the amount of removal triggers that Enel has access to with Nami, Kingdom Come, Rocket Luffy,
Yeah.
that's just 3 different ones right there that just get rid of stuff if it gets popped out of life. You need to be careful that you're not playing into them setting that up. So to kind of avoid that, you want to help yourself by playing slow, making sure you're not gonna, run out of resources faster than the Enel by trying to have, let's say, mostly a full board at the very least to swing in at once, so that you swing with the leader or you swing with the character first almost always because of that removal chance, because they can't remove your leader, right? They can't make sure your leader, they can't KO it. The only way they can make sure it doesn't attack is with like a dot, or not a Godatsu, sorry, a beige trigger, something like that. And the likelihood of that is way less than it being KO'd. So you always, 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 if you're playing against yellow, even blue, you want to swing with your characters first, because the likelihood of it hitting a trigger that is not in your favor is very high. So trying to get an L down to 1, you kind of want to do 2 or 3 big turns of aggro and not much until then, trying to find your pudding, trying to find, your red rocks to make sure that they don't have the pieces to defend, and then swinging in where those removal triggers aren't going to make too much of a difference.
I like your Viola strategy. Definitely very good against yellow that a lot of people don't realize. Also, your Hiyori, when you mentioned about like you can take the top, but you don't actually have to put something back, was like for a moment I was just like, wow, like I know that's possible. I just never
Right?
considered it.
Yeah, you just take the top or the bottom and you can put up to 1 card back. That includes 0. So, yeah.
Okay, so Enel definitely going to be a big. I mean, we talked about like those ones in general are just huge, but
Yeah.
recently we've been seeing a lot of presence of Nami.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your strategy against this guy, Agrel.
Nami, I feel really good into Nami. I can't lie. Like I kind of sit back a little bit, especially as a Nami player. I can almost know what they're gonna play in certain instances. Your list was I was so caught off guard. I was like, what is happening? But yeah, against an average Nami, I just sit back. They're gonna hold up cards. Same as Enel, I try to find ways to make sure they don't have answers for my big swings to fill the board. I'm able to fill the board so fast with a 2-drop that brings out a 5, and then a 5-drop, and then a 6-drop, and then a 5-drop that can go to 8, and then a 5-drop that can rush, and then, you know what I mean? Knowing that Nami doesn't necessarily like certain numbers for combat at different points in time, knowing that White Snake is a thing, knowing that 9K really hurts at certain points, it's really easy to hit those numbers in this deck. To be able to get to super high base powers without committing Dawn is what Nami hates the most, in my opinion.
Yeah, with your Luffy or because like
Yeah,
they're never swinging at you, so this guy's just free value.
exactly. Okay, I might be bringing life to hand, but I can also heal life with my leader ability in Viola.
Oh yeah.
So I may not necessarily be going negative in life, depending on how I'm playing it.
It's curious because you can also technically Red Rock or Boa Hancock their cards back to their deck. They're like
Exactly.
going a little too fast
That's
on
one
you.
of the biggest things where I draw so much and I'm able to stall out and just see so much of my deck with knowing what I'm putting where with my 5-card searches every turn with my leader. I can kind of count on seeing a pudding against a Nami or bottom decking the Nami's 1-drop Kayas, like I mentioned at the beginning.
Putting against Nami feels so good. Like, oh my
Putting
gosh.
against Nami is so crazy, bro. Like, it's just a scoop right there.
Oh man. See, that's why I don't know. Where are you based at? I guess not California, Probably like
No,
central.
I am in Canada. I'm in Alberta.
Oh wow! I was about to say like if you were at that, if you faced some Namis, man, you would have just showed us your ways, man. This deck is so good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Dofi. Actually, while we're on blue, Dofi summons a
Hmm.
lot of units.
Yeah.
Whole lot.
So I've thought about that when building this deck. If we look at the general characters Dofi runs, they're all basically 4 costs. They're all around 5 or 6K power. There's not too much out of it other than what they're going to use specifically for their own high end,
Mm.
top end, stuff like that. And then different tech cards that they may prefer. Now, the reason that we notice those things is if we look at my deck's removal, Rocket Luffy that I'm able to search for and make sure is there against an aggro deck, it removes a 4 cost or less. Well, guess what? Doflamingo really likes 4 costs. So Rocket Luffy is really useful in this matchup because not only is it helping me swing in at 6K, which is a lot of Dofi's cards. So it's bigger than its blockers. It's about the same as its attackers. And if it's trying to out aggro me as a deck that can heal, I usually that means that they're gonna drop a lot of their counters from hand. So being able to swing in with Luffy and then still pop one of their either maybe their blocker they didn't use to block with or an aggro piece that's a 4 drop and then draw a card, refilling my hand, possibly giving me more defensive power or setting up for my next turn is super useful. Being able to bottom deck certain things in this deck is also really, really handy. It is blue, so it does go through its deck quite a bit. But since the 7 Warlords package is able to run the 4-drop Gecko Moria that brings stuff out of the bin, he's able to search for that almost as reliably as I can get a brother. So KOing things isn't necessarily always the answer against Doflamingo because even though he's a blue deck, he does have recursion. And if he's recurring Jinbeis into Weevils, into, maybe he drew a gravity, like he is drawing so much value off of one recursive card because of how synergistic this deck is. So bottom decking certain cards or maybe not KOing the 4-cost Jinbei because maybe if you're keeping track, which you should be, of what cards they're searching for, they reveal a Jinbei, they reveal something that they can cheat out with the Jinbei. You don't always want to help them get that Jinbei back to hand if you know that they have the recursion effect, especially because Jinbei is genuinely the best combo piece in this deck.
I was gonna say like the fact that your leader can swing 7 or 9K, Dofis don't run too many counters, so like you do burn his hand a lot.
Exactly.
I think with your combination of being able to summon characters at 2 Dawn, where he uses 3, like if you use the baby brothers, that's I can see that working out for you. The only thing I'd be careful of with him is his gravity blades, but you have so many 5 costs, you just summon so many.
So the thing is though, since his removal mainly is going to be bottom decking, I can get through my deck so fast that it not only helps me push the boas, the kaidos, the puddings, anything that I bottom deck back up to the top. It helps me search and keep cycling those cards. If I'm able to, if he bottom decks any of my big brothers, and I still have a little brother in hand, I'm able to get back through to that. He's actually helping me stay consistent because this deck doesn't have recursion in any form.
Interesting. Yeah, you'd almost prefer being because you don't run Gecko Moria. You prefer like these guys getting KO, like bottom decked over being KO'd.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And do you see that? Like, do you see yourself like going? Have you ever gone through like your entire deck, like almost your entire deck before?
I have actually. One time I got down. I have cycled through more than my whole deck on many occasions.
Oh wow.
A lot of the time, like because 5 at a time. So if you think about it, you're starting the game with 40 cards in your deck, not 50. You have 4 at life. You have 5 in hand. You draw 1 card to start game, right? Generally, because in a deck like this with Ace, where everything in your deck for the most part is relying on even mana or Dawn value, you're gonna want to be on the second turn, or the second play, so you can get the draw. so that you can make sure your hand size stays full. You see as many cards as you can, and you're able to get through your deck so fast by going 5 cards every single turn. It only takes 4 turns essentially to get through half of your deck.
I'm just processing that right now. Okay, draw, you're at 10, 5 if you're leader. Okay, and then so you're at like what? 35, Garp 30.
Yeah, so turn 3, turn 1 so basically turn 1 you have 10 cards out of your deck already. Let's say because we're going second, right? So we have 2 Dawn. We drop a Garp, we go through 5 more cards. Okay, so now there's 35 we haven't seen. Turn 2, we're at 3, so we can leader ability just for information if we really want. Sorry, we're at 4. But hopefully we have Kiori, Viola, Flampe, or a little brother, because it takes 2 Dawn, and my leader ability only takes 2 Dawn. You never drop the life fixer before you do the leader ability because of the amount of removal you play against.
Yeah.
And if you life fix before you put the thing to fix, that's just backwards.
Yeah.
So you leader ability for 2, you put a 5 drop up, you life fix, whether it's a little brother or making sure the life doesn't get trashed uselessly. That's, what are we at? That's 30 cards in deck you haven't seen now. And then that's not even using your 1-drop Garp Searcher yet.
And then you also have your ace. And then you also have your leader just constantly. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
You do.
And then eventually Kaido draws 4, and every time if you're using Luffy's Rocket Luffy's activated main, he draws a card when he removes stuff successfully. Yeah.
Nice. Wow. Okay, so we're learning things that, it's curious because you come from a Magic background. Like I feel like a lot of One Piece players, especially if they didn't play other TCGs, will not have thought through that, like the capabilities.
Oh, dude, and I mean Flampe, that's another 2 cards you draw right there. That is also subsequently helping you use your leader ability. Like, that's what I look at. I love the way that this game is made so far, because in comparison to Magic, every single set is niche to itself and it works on a new world, and it's got these keywords that are, they all work within each other. But then you go to the next set and it's all different keywords and they don't mix very well unless, for whatever case they may call back. Whereas in One Piece, what came out this set, what comes out 2 sets ago, and what comes out next set, they all have the same keywords. They all are synergistic. And so every single card in the game will get better if they keep making the game like this. Because every single card will slowly gain more synergy as they make more cards.
That was my strategy back in OP01. Like, people were like throwing away cards. I'm like, all of these cards are going to eventually be good. So I just bulk. I probably have like thousands of cards.
I'm trying to get a play set of everything, but I just started. Like I said, I started in OP06, but I genuinely think, coming from Magic, even though I've only been in this game for a set and a half, I think it has put me into a really good spot to theory craft, to be able to find these different combinations or interactions that a lot of people just are overlooking. Like when Viola came out, a couple of my buddies genuinely just said, yeah, whatever, it's not that good. It's a 2-drop blocker. Okay, cool. But it does this, and it has a counter, and it can do this, and it's what? Yeah.
Eventually, the fact that it's Dressrosa is going to come in handy for.
I know. Well, it already did, because it came out with Kyros, which is his leader effect flips life card face up and needs a life card face down to be able to use it. So it's searchable in his deck and helps with the synergy of his own leader. So it's a really good card.
Okay, so we're going over the hour mark. I want to just do 2 leaders real quick as like a power shuffle.
Of course.
Bonnie
is so tough, but similarly to a matchup where you're trying to play around triggers, it's slowing you down essentially. So you want to make sure that while yes, they can get a lot of blockers on board, they don't necessarily mean that they're the biggest blockers or that they're going to be able to keep around, other than, let's say, Basil Hawkins. That is the big exception, of course. Also, something that you need to keep in mind playing against a Bonnie as this aggro kind of swing big kind of deck relying on me hitting your life, you need to keep track of what your opponent is actually playing, whether they're playing a Don Quixote list or a Supernova's mixed list, whatever. Because if you get 10 Don Doflamingo'd, you are screwed. As a deck that relies on being able to keep up constant pressure while being able to defend out of any pressure, it is somehow very synergistic with those two pieces. And if you can't do one, it is very hard to do the other. For example, putting pressure on with Rocket Luffy also draws you cards. Putting pressure on with the 8 power Luffy also kind of draws you cards. Flampe, getting you down to 2 life to try to use your Rocket Luffy or Rush Ace, draws you a lot of cards. So this deck is very synergistic within itself of being an aggro deck, but being a defensive deck, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So Bonnie essentially.
So sorry. Bonnie really hurts if you can't keep track of what kind of list they're playing because of how our deck runs. Now, you need to be able to, similarly to a Nell, where you're trying to play around the KO triggers, you got to try to make sure that you're playing around the rest ability. And you need to remember that it only happens once a turn. So being able to attack into Bonnie where it actually, like, if they rest one of my leader, my characters, whatever, it doesn't necessarily matter because I have, let's say, 2 or 3 or 4 other really big base body swings coming in at them still that they can't just rest for free. So that's kind of the game plan into the Bonnie matchup there.
I do like your puddings against them and your Boa Hancocks and the Gum Gum Rock, Red Rock against their Zoros or their.
Exactly.
Kids.
When I first mentioned Boa, I had mentioned how useful her second part of the ability is on Green's recursion searchers, like the Baby 5, the Jewelry Bonnie searcher, where it's when it's out, you pay 1 and you rest it every single turn. You can rest it again and search through 5 or 4 or however many cards, right? Depending on which one you're using at the time, which is incredible value. I had a matchup. I was playing Nami into a Bonnie. They literally cycled through their entire deck faster than I did. They made sure that they had their 9-cost Zoro in a certain spot. They knew exactly where it was. So Green is able to get so much card advantage and knowledge on what is going to come out of their deck with these 1-drop searchers that just being able to passively get rid of them with Boa and also slow them down to help me build my board for that, like 3 or 4 or 5 body swing. It is a very, very useful card. Probably the best card in a Boa or in my Bonnie matchup, maybe other than my pudding.
That makes sense. Do you find yourself healthy against them, or is it like cut down to the wire where you have like 1 life and they have like 1 or 2 that you have to like swing them for life? Or
it kind of depends on what they are playing. If they're running aggro, I am able to kind of sit back and play. Like, I kind of want Bonnie to play aggro into me because I'm able to make myself a big body leader. I'm able to get big body defenders. I can get a lot of counters out in this whole deck, right? So them being aggro into me, resting their characters, lets me with my big base powers hopefully try to wipe their board and play a bit more of a control-y game more than the control deck.
I like that about, like we see this happen with Black Yellow Luffy, but just seeing Ace at 9K with all these characters, it's gotta be scary. Just like how consistently
it is.
Man. And like you run so many like counters, like how am I gonna get past your 9K with like 6 cards in hand, knowing that there's like so many 2Ks and 1Ks in your hand?
Yeah. And especially with, you just also randomly dropped a 2-drop blocker, or you have a 6K blocker I have to get through. Swinging 7 doesn't really matter if I can still 2K out of that.
Last but not least, RP Law.
Honestly, I kind of feel bad seeing RP Law go. With how much ego an RP Law player comes into an LGS has, genuinely, it is such a fun matchup in my favor. The amount of resources that an RP Law player has to use in order to bottom deck one of my big brothers. Just because their 6 or 7 or 8k base is so much value. They need to use their Gordons, their raise maxes, and then drop their bodies. I have big blockers so that, let's say if they're not focusing on removing my blocker, they want to remove my really aggro pieces, then I'm able to 2k out of a random kid and killer because that's only a 7k. I'm able to pudding them and make sure that they can't like set up their next turns and try to starve them a little bit. If I boa an aggro deck and bottom deck their searchers or their raise maxes or their Gordons, if they may have missequenced something, it's so much value. And then if I'm able to get to that point, dropping these Kaidos hurts. It does so much work while I have the Rocket Luffys and the Red Rocks to get rid of blockers.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, he spends so many dawns getting rid of your board, and then by the time you do your baby brothers, it's like, okay, I can swing you like 3 different times with 6k, but you're like 9k leader.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Like, if you think about it, right, he's going to use 3 Dawn to remove one of my 5-drop bodies that I use 2 Dawn to play.
Yeah, dang. Yeah.
So, like, somehow Ace outvalued Law. In like, if you look at it like that.
Man, but like, you say that, but your deck is actually really scary. I faced it one time. I'm like, all right, I got to interview this man. This deck, world must know how dangerous the big brother and the 3 brothers combo is. Like,
man, and it's only going to get better. Next set, it gets a Whitebeard Searcher that stacks the top of your deck, just like the blocker does. It's going to get the 10-drop Whitebeard that's able to essentially boa an entire board. And as a deck that, oh, hey, wait, I have 3 other cards that like me being at 2 life. Well, it doesn't really matter then if that's one of the requirements on this 10-drop new gate, does it?
Yeah, Ace is a Whitebeard pirate. So.
Yeah, buddy.
Dang.
And then if you look there, thank you for loving me on the bottom there. That is an amazing card. Trigger, first of all, draw 1. It costs 1. And then if your leader is Whitebeard Pirates, look at 3 cards. You can take a Whitebeard Pirates or a Luffy.
That's perfect for this deck. What the heck?
Like, yeah, or a Luffy, which means you can pull Little Brother Luffy with it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't necessarily, like, and then the best part is you get to stack 2 cards from your hand back on top.
Dang.
Like there's 3 cards you look, you take 1, you put them back on top or the bottom. Let's say one of the 2 of those cards are a big brother. You're going to put it back on top first, followed by whatever other card, setting up for your next turn's Ace to guarantee you not whiffing a 5-drop.
That's so good. What the heck? All right, maybe I gotta hop on this Ace train. Like, what the heck? This is great.
Then if you look slowly to the top right there, there's another blue card. It's an Animal. It's a 3-drop blocker.
3-drop blocker. Yeah.
This card on play, draw 2, and it does exactly what Ace does.
But cheaper.
You can guarantee your top deck next set almost the entire game. So as they make more blue cards, this deck will only get better.
Dang. Well, we covered so much. I think we have to end with one last thing. People love their gameplay. People have to see their gameplay. Can we get a game in of you playing Ace and I'll play a random deck? I'll play it now.
100% we will. Yeah.
Sweet. You want to do it right now? Just end this. Oh, right. You don't have to sim with you. Right,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. How about this? How about I'll run this Ace deck and you can like kind of like walk through.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, bet.
All right, who do we want to face?
Oh,
Lucci?
what just
Ace? Dofi?
Oh my god. Sorry. I think my breaker just flipped.
Oh no.
There we go. Okay. So yes, honestly, host one and see who joins it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Oh, there was another blue yellow Ace. That's hilarious.
Yeah, they foresaw this video.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
They probably faced him like, what the heck?
Hey, maybe.
What did he run? Look at his trash. Low key, that's what I was thinking when I was playing. I'm like, what did he run? I was looking through your trash. I'm like, wow, this is really nice.
Yeah. The list that I played against you, I had 2 Blaze Slices, which is just a list. I was just testing. This is my consistent list that I actually play with. I like testing random blue cards in it. Oh, okay. So we want to find Viola, and we want to make sure that we're gonna outpace the double attack, basically.
Should I mulligan for this or keep?
Yeah, mulligan this one here.
All right, let's see it.
Okay, so we got our searcher, which means we're gonna be able to get our little brother off start. If we whiff on a little brother and we still have to put something on top, we can flampe to make sure that we still get the value out of it. And since we can't search for our Kaido, this is perfect to have in hand.
Also, full disclosures, whoever thinks this is cheating, we're just having fun. This is not ranked sim. This is randos. They don't mind.
Yeah, no, exactly. So we're going to GARP search here, 100%. We want to find a little brother, no matter what. There we go. We got an ace.
Click the ace.
Which is perfect because we want to get blocker ace, right? We want to get as many blockers out in this matchup as we can. So while we put this back, we're going to try, don't worry about where the big brother is. Put that on the bottom. Try to stack the Viola and the kids because those are our keys to make sure that we're consistent.
Got it. I just put
and so, yeah, we'll pass through there.
Pass, enter?
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
we don't want to use the flampe unless we need to make sure that we're not wasting value from our top deck. So, yeah, we're going to easily counter out of this.
Counter out, okay.
We'll use the Rocket Luffy for this one because bringing the 5 ace, going down to 2 life is going to happen pretty quickly in this matchup. So getting a rush on board is going to be pretty valid. We do not want to see 2 characters or 2 bodies with double attack into us. So we got to try to get rid of this cracker on this turn. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 Dawn onto our leader. We're going to use his ability because whether or not we pick something, we get the 2k anyway. Ace. So we're going to take the blocker because we already have 2 rush aces in hand. The reason that we want the blocker, we put it down. We're going to put the bow at the top, right?
Oh, shit.
And then we're going to cheat. That's okay. That's okay. So we'll cheat out the ace now. Yep.
That's so good.
And so now not only did we just cheat out a 5-drop on 4 Dawn, we also essentially used all 4 of that Dawn on our leader this turn.
All right, so quick, start placing on top or bottom?
Yep. So we're gonna go top. We're gonna put a 5-drop ace, and then we're gonna put one of our bricks on top. So any one of the bricks, because we're redrawing into this next turn.
I'll do Kaido.
There you go.
See? And then just swing it here.
Yep. Now we're swinging into Cracker.
Nice. 9k. Oh, feels good.
Yeah.
Oh, I completely didn't see his blocker.
Oh, yeah. We both completely didn't.
What?
Anyway.
Hidden. It's hidden. All right. It's okay. We got a lot going for us still.
But yeah. But just to show you what the deck can do, on turn 2, you've seen 10 cards already, at least, not including what's in your hand and what you've drawn.
Yeah.
You've used all 4 of your Dawn to get a 9k swing out while you played a 5-drop character at 6k, setting up for your next turn's top 5 already.
Oh yeah.
On turn 2, which is so much value.
Do I take
So
this?
see, they had to commit so much there.
Yeah.
We're at 7k. We actually have a lot of counter in hand still. Yeah, we're gonna use the counters. I can't lie.
So Hiyori or Flampe? Probably Flampe.
We're gonna use both. We're gonna use both because we want to keep the little brother in hand.
Okay, and he does here. So I take that. This Cracker's gonna swing at me.
Yeah.
Oh no, I guess not.
Yeah, there you go. So then that's kind of what I figured. So now we're gonna be able to cheat out. We're gonna look at the top 5.
So use leader ability?
With leader ability. Yep. Okay. So now if we look at our hand, we have a little brother Luffy.
Yeah.
Well, that means we want to bring out a Luffy, right? Yeah, so in a situation right now, if we look at what's on their board, they have a 1-drop, a 4-drop, and a 3-drop.
So probably Luffy. Okay,
so we're going to grab the Rocket Luffy because he can remove that stuff. So you want to push, generally, you want to make sure that you can push those to the top so that they're cycling through, and you can get them nice and easy. We have 1 Kaido in hand. We don't really need the second one, so that going to the bottom is fine. So yeah, we're going to Kid Luffy here, bring out that one. And so now we have a couple of choices. We can hold on to the Luffy for next turn to swing in with them and then pop. Or we can use him. We can't use him right now for his main ability, right? because we have 4 life. So that's something you got to try to remember. So
This is okay.
yes, exactly. So we're gonna swing 9, bait out a block. Perfect.
And then end turn.
And then yeah, we still have some Dawn. So optionally, it's up to you. Generally, ending turn here is the play because you want to keep the blocker up in this matchup with 2 double attackers out.
Just a reminder, the sim has a new timer mode, so we actually might have to play a little bit faster because we're 12 minutes. On the bottom.
Shoot, my bad, bro.
No, you're good. You're good. I just wanna I know like there's things I can do, but I almost like hearing you like play through me. Just like learning your thought process is like, oh okay.
Yeah.
Helps the audience understand how to play this ace. Like this for me is so informational. It's great.
Yeah.
I just watched. They're gonna like AFK because they're like, what the heck's going on? Okay, knight. I think we can take one. Right?
But see, they have to commit so much just to hit. Yeah, we can take this one because we want to fill our hand back up. Nice. That is perfect. We're honestly okay with seeing that. We've activated our Rocket Luffy. We've activated our Rush Ace. We have ways to make sure they can't counter out when we go in for swings because of our pudding. And since we drew into the Luffy, the kid, we can make sure we go to 7 again.
I say we pudding here, right?
I say we pudding here.
Nice.
While pudding is super useful, aggro, they only have 3 cards right now, and we don't plan on giving them too many this turn.
We can double Luffy this turn. It's crazy.
Yeah, we can. So what are we at for Dawn? We're at like 8. Perfect. So we're gonna put 2 onto our leader to see what we got here. Okay. Since we had a kid Luffy, we want Luffy. Unfortunately, sometimes we whiff, but that's okay. So we put the ace to top. What we're gonna do here is now that we can commit to the Luffys, we're gonna swing in with the Luffy that's on board right now.
Yeah.
Swinging into the cracker.
For a 7?
For 7, yeah. Sorry.
Nice.
Either getting some counters out or making their block.
Imagine he's going to just.
I feel like he takes this.
Yeah.
Because at 3 life, he doesn't really need 2 double attackers, right?
Nope. I'm thinking Luffy ability to KO this guy.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, now we Luffy ability.
I'm at 3 life.
Oh my god, we're so silly. We're so silly.
It's okay.
My bad.
We have ace. I can play the ace.
Yeah. But he's not gonna get rushed.
I was at 2 life. Sorry,
we needed to do that first. Like I'm so silly.
You're so fine. I'm just like first time playing ace. I'm just learning the self.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's okay.
That timing is actually pretty important. I didn't even realize that.
Right? I know. Like we could have deleted 2 bodies and got a rush character on board.
It's okay.
And then got that out.
We're
it was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So especially because we can keep these big blockers as a threat, and a lot of big attacks is really handy. Yeah. And we still have the bottom decking for when they most likely bring out something like a Hody, something like that.
It's crazy. Like you're right about the deck shuffling. We've gone through so many cards already. I think like 15 or 20.
Yeah, and just through your leader ability, right? Because we've used that 3 or 4 times, and then we've Garp searched for once, and we've drawn based on that, and then so.
And we can even see they're 9. They could try to Hody Jones us.
Yeah.
But no, they're not doing that here. So
nope.
I think I block.
Yeah. So I think we blocked this one because we don't really have the counters. We weren't able to get up to 7K. It's fine to get rid of a 6K to block out a 9. That's fine. So
for 5 Dawn, what did they play? They could play. Okay, that's fine.
I don't see them like. Generally, they probably want to play a what?
It's a very unique Yamato build.
That's not what I expected. Yeah.
But we have our ace. I mean Luffy.
Yeah, exactly.
I take, or I guess I could take because Yamato's going to double attack anyways.
Yeah, exactly. We want to try to stay on. We like genuinely want to go to 1. Playing against the Yamato because then her leader ability does kind of nothing. Okay, so now we have Viola, Hiyori, and Kid Luffy. We are almost guaranteed to not whiff on a heal. So we can either heal, get a brother cheat out, or go for a Kaido. Most likely in this situation, buffing us is the best play.
Yeah, Kaido.
So we're gonna try to cheat out a Kid.
Yeah, they're at 4 life.
Exactly.
So we wouldn't be able to trigger. Ooh.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
So probably this one, I'm guessing? Question mark?
Yeah, you got it.
So let's go here because I can do that. And then I'm gonna do here. I'm just making
fun.
Isn't this fun? Real quick. Yeah, it's so nice being able to shuffle.
It's. I love this deck so much.
I know I should do this, but I'm like tempted to do it.
And then if we take a look at how much Dawn we have,
let's do that.
Well,
6 Dawn?
We have 6. We have 6 Dawn.
Good.
And Red Rock costs 6.
But I also have the Luffy.
So
because I can Luffy Ace
exactly.
and then KO the Mihawk.
Just pointing out. I'm just pointing out.
Yeah.
That's why Red Rock is better than Gravity Blade
Yeah.
instead.
Okay, this. So I've got 1 Dawn. So let me first swing. I'll swing here. Kind of keep them guessing.
Yep.
Could bring them to 3 life.
Exactly.
And leave 1 Dawn up just to make them think that I have something. They can try to go for a game next turn. So Hody jump. I used to play Yamato a lot, so I actually like that deck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If they try to go 8, we have enough to counter 8, so we're good. If they try to do 8, then
which what I love is how much is Hody's power? It's 7, right? Or is it 9?
Hody, I believe it's 7k.
Yeah, okay, so we're a 7k. So Hody, we only need 1k to counter it, which is kind of crazy.
No, maybe he's
oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, either way, it's 1 card for us in this situation. Yeah, exactly.
You know, but also like it must be weird playing through a screen share. It's like different than when you're playing it directly. So
it's kind of delayed too. It feels weird.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And then also, if they were to play the Hody, they wouldn't really have enough to put on leader for an actual useful swing too, which is nice.
It sounds weird, but do I ever just let this go? Because I almost like my Hiyori. Or do I counter? I think I should counter.
Yeah, honestly.
Or it's up to you.
Whatever I want to, what you do, you want to do here. Because either way, we see so many cards. There's a good chance we're able to refill it.
Yeah.
But we can also put pressure. So it's up to you.
I let it go just because I think I need these counter for a Hody Jones swing.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree completely.
6. It's nice because I actually can do a lot of things here.
All right, so we can't attack. Okay, this situation. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Sweet. And then 2, 4. I could also
and
I don't mind this combination.
So we have 4.
So here, let me try something real quick.
So we could still use our leader ability, right? Yeah, exactly.
That's fine.
Yep.
It has to be a 5 cost anyway.
Yeah, so we put the 5 up. Yeah. So what we're gonna do though is we're gonna Hiyori. We're gonna bring the ace to hand, so now we can drop our 5 rush at a certain time when it benefits us. And yeah, we're gonna put a red rock up there so we don't have to activate it.
Nice.
They're going to swing in. We're going to get a trigger. Bottom deck, their Arlong, or if they play another Cracker, anything like that, because a lot of 4K or 4 costs so far coming from them.
Yeah, makes sense. Plus, this gives us a good rush if we need to go lethal because they only have 2 cards in hand.
Exactly. That's what I really like with the Hiyori combo, is that if you have to put up a card that you don't necessarily want to keep in life, you can pull it and still put something in like a nice trigger.
I love the fact that I just attach it to my character and I can just like chill. Yep. I can just it's not even wasting Dawn. Yep. It's just there.
You don't have to attack with it. It's just there. Yeah.
Okay.
So in this situation, we most likely want to try to get a little defensive while removing some of their stuff.
Okay.
So we do have Viola. We do have Red Rock. We can play both of those in one turn, and that does help with the Yamato swing, and it gets rid of the Kikunojo. Now, what we're going to want to do, though, is we're going to want to heal to make sure we get full use out of Viola. So 2 Dawn on lead, pull a 5-drop the top, doesn't matter what it is, because we're going to leave it there, right? Mm-hmm. We do have Luffy in hand. If we wanted to be really aggro, we could drop it. But right now, we want to make sure we don't die. Random Rusher. So we're going to put that out.
The Viola?
Yep. Face down the life. And we've just healed 1 for 4 Dawn. That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Now what we can do is Red Rock the Kikunojo, because it has, when it dies, he heals. That's not good for us. And then we can swing in, because they only have 1 card in hand. We're already at 7 for this attack. Let's go.
Scared of is if they summon Kikunojo from these. But I guess we have...
That is true.
I'll swing once with the leader.
Yeah.
I think 2 should be fine.
Yeah. I think that's fine, because next turn we can go Rush Ace, Boa swing, Leader swing.
So you had Frankie, that's fine, 2k. Okay. End turn here?
Yeah.
Okay. That's safe.
So what do you think so far?
Oh, I like it. It's actually super, like, I think just the biggest challenge, I think, was building this deck. And you built it really well. I think you've helped solve this deck. Like, the playthrough, the walkthrough, like, you kind of guiding me through your thought process. I think this is such a good experience. In fact, I'm going to be setting up a Patreon soon. And I think, like, the way that you said it, like, the way this is going, like, hey, here's the deck list. I'm going to try to recreate that. But I like it. This deck is super nice. And I can't wait to talk more about your other decks eventually as well.
Hell yeah, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, see, so this is the general Yamato thing. We do want a Viola out of this because we have the 5-drop blocker in hand still. They're probably gonna drop the Hody.
I'm surprised. Oh yeah, because I was gonna
Okay.
say like if they had Hody, they would just like play it to rest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so we have a couple of options right now. Since we drew another Viola, we could heal again, and it would still keep us in range for Rush Ace.
True. We're thinking that.
And then we'll let a Satori go. Yeah, I think that's what we want to do.
I guess. Are we worried about the Satori? Because like if I needed to, I could just swing for game right now.
If you, yeah, I mean, if you feel like you could swing through, because they're gonna have 4 cards in hand, the likelihood of countering out of 1 attack is pretty high.
Never mind. I changed my
So-
mind. I'll do the strategy you mentioned. Just
Yeah.
because we don't have much time. Ace play.
Fair.
5. I'll play a blocker 2. That's 3.
We're gonna heal.
One face down. Got a 5. So let's swing a little bit here. And it gives me enough to play
Yep.
this, and I have an extra Dawn for a 9.
And then we do have an 8K we can swing with.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I made it 9K
Perfect.
just to see what they do.
Yeah, perfect. And then we're able to drop our 7K still.
Yes, sir.
Or you want to drop your blocker, that's totally fine too.
Oh, 7K
Whatever you want to do.
swing. I'll play blocker. I guess it is a counter. 7K. He used his.
Because the way I'm looking at it, they just used the counter out of hand. They might have a brick. 7K, they need 3 counters in hand, right?
True. Or 2. Oh no, yeah.
So-
3K. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can either go blocker route or rush, and we might have game, but we can play safe and play the blocker. It's up to you.
5 cost blocker. But if he swings and plays Satori,
Minute and a half.
that's the only thing I'm worried about.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to play it safe.
Yep. There you go.
Play some-
And then keep all of your counters in hand. Make sure we draw the rush ace first next turn.
Oh yes, sir.
Perfect.
And this is nice. And if they try to go lethal, I have like
There.
5K swing counter.
Exactly. That's what's awesome. Not only did you drop a blocker, you just cycled out 2 bricks.
Yeah. Like when I saw the 7K swing, I just know Yamato's like he played a lot of non-counters in hand, so I know he has something. Hody Jones, that's fine because now he has to
Yeah,
commit
exactly.
to the 8K swing. The only swing I need to block is a leader
Yep.
swing, and I have enough for that.
Exactly. Thankful for the ace cycling.
Yeah.
Nice.
He tries to swing at my characters, or he just gives up. He's only can swing at this or this. He probably goes here,
Yeah.
or he tries that. That's fine. This is where we prep the
Awesome.
GG.
Yeah, and he concedes. So, yeah. So as you can see, we were really able to hold back the aggro of Yamato. We, in fact, ended the game up 2 life from where we went.
So with that being said, like I want to give you the credit because that was your deck and your thing. We have a little bit of time left. You want to talk about your channel? Check out RageBro1's Twitch channel.
Yeah, sure. I'm not. I've been streaming for quite a while. I just do it on the low kind of thing. I really like my community. We're pretty chill. We have a really good sense of just of hominess, if that makes sense. I call my community the comfy couch because I want it to be a place where anyone can come and chill comfortably. I play a lot of different games too. Like I play the sim on the stream, I build decks on the stream, I play first-person shooters, all the different stuff. Mostly, I just like hanging out with the people in chat. But yeah,
Perfect. Well, RageBro1's channel. If this video has showcased much, it's that RageBro knows what he's talking about. It's that his videos are going to be, his ideas are going to be very useful. And if you haven't already, definitely check them out. RageBro, what do you just want to go by RageBro? Appreciate this deck list. This is so nice. This is like the kind of the optimum thing that we're looking for. Like, what is a deck list that no one knows about that actually is super strong and undervalued? So I think you showcased that today. Definitely want to make more videos with you in the future. Guys, check out RageBro1's Twitch channel. Thank you so much for watching. And with that being said, see you guys on the next one, and peace.